All right, everyone, welcome to the 52 Hike Challenge Spring Hiking Quarterly Meeting. I really am so happy you're here and just thrilled that you're all a part of this journey. And I want to thank our sponsors, REI and Obo's Footwear, for supporting us. We do so much. We have tons of chapters that need support, whether we're shipping out merchandise or we're creating content for you or creating these educational seminars. We could not do it without their support. So check them out if you haven't, and let's get started. So today I'm just kind of going to go over, we've talked about this if you were in our last meeting, but I just want to run over some of the just tips when it comes to hiking out in spring. I did update the presentation to have like kind of more recent designs that are out there when it comes to clothing. We'll talk a little bit about footwear, some ideas for your day packs, other essentials, tips, and things to think about as the spring is allergy season for a lot of people, or maybe there's more mud and there's bugs out there. So these are all great things to be aware of when you're getting out there. So let's just start really quickly. I'm not going to go through all the details of the 10 essentials, but I just wanted to um, hold on one second. We have some people in the waiting room. Okay. Looks like we have admitted them, so we're good. So as I was saying, I'm not going to get into too much detail of the 10 essentials because we covered it in the last um, gathering that we had in the last meeting. But just making sure you're always carrying the 10 essentials when you are going outdoors to trails that you're not really familiar with. You're going for a longer day hike. You really should be carrying this on most hikes. I know if you've been going to the same trail over and over again and you feel comfortable with just bringing, let's say your water bottle and, that's fine. Make sure that you feel comfortable and confident and you do have at least some way of communicating in case of an emergency. I think that's really important. But overall, I always pretty much take my 10 essentials with me. They're already in my packed. And if you don't know of them, you can take a look at the list. It's some sort of navigation, mapping compass, your sun protection, which includes your sunglasses, your extra clothing, your insulation, because it does get cold out there sometimes all of a sudden, or maybe you get too hot and you want to make sure that you have more than you need. That's always a good thing when it comes to clothing. Having some form of illumination in case you get stuck outside longer than you planned on, first aid supplies, um, having some way of some way of creating a fire if that was absolutely necessary, repair kit and tools, something like a Leatherman, extra food, snacks, bars, hydration, your water, your electrolytes, and of course, an emergency shelter. So that list is up on our website. If you want to get more information, feel free to go on there and learn more. And in addition to that, this is the layering system that we've talked about already. But again, just going over some different options for spring. It's always good to just have your different layers as you're planning your spring hiking, because if you're somewhere like where I live in New Mexico, it could suddenly start snowing out in the mountains, and you need to be able to have the right resources and gear so you're not caught in a situation that could cause hypothermia or worse. So let's get into some of the spring clothing ideas that I put together here. I did some for men and women. And starting off with, for women, having all your different layers. I did put a puffy jacket because it's kind of nice. It's keeps you warm if it gets really chilly. And then we'll talk about rain gear that you can put on top of that. That is a good shell. Always having some sort of maybe a fleece that could also work. We'll look at some options in the next slide, but some pant options, like in this case, these are convertible pants, really great and for technical hikes. Um, these are zip off pants, so you could actually turn them into shorts. I like these shirts that are they're moisture wicking. They're really comfortable, and then you can layer on top of that. So this shirt here is a sun shirt. I highly recommend it. I use it all the time. I love it because it keeps you cool in the heat and also warm when it's cold. So I just got back from Patagonia and used my this kind of a type of a shirt, and I had two of them on the trek, and I always, I'm just so happy I have it. It also is good for extra coverage around your face, especially if you're out for a longer day. And then, of course, having, some comfortable wool type sock or synthetic sock for hiking is really great. So these are some example of items you can wear in the springtime and also are really great for layering. All right, we're going to move on into our next um, items. For these are, of course, I have examples for men and women, but they of course can be used interchangeably. So for men, I have, these are really cool pants that are out right now. I'm actually just sharing stuff that I saw people wear at Patagonia, and I really liked. These Fjällräven pants that are really awesome. But yeah, for men and women, that's for you to take a look at. And then, of course, these shirts that are these shirts, they usually are convertible as well. They turn into short sleeves, so you can wear it in all seasons. And that's why I put these kind of different products out here for you to check out. Of course, I have an example of a fleece here that is really nice because it's ultra lightweight. It keeps you warm. It doesn't keep you too hot. For example, on the trek that I was just on in Patagonia, I had a Patagonia fleece, and it really was good when I wasn't feeling too cold. But if I was feeling extra cold, then I'd put on my puffy, followed by my rain jacket, and that really helped me stay warm in like 30-degree temperatures. Okay, so spring hiking, you just don't know what's going to happen out there. So it's really kind of important to have some shell that is going to be waterproof. Okay, so I gave you some examples. You can have like some sort of waterproof pant. Soft shell is can be decent for snow and rain, depending on if it's a heavy or lighter rain. If you are going to have a lot of rain, like places like Washington, where it rains a lot, you may actually want to invest into something that is you want actual waterproof. And be aware that when you're shopping for your rain gear, that it's not water resistant but waterproof. Water resistant can work for like a light rain, but then if it starts raining really really hard, it's actually not going to work, and it's going to your the water is going to actually permeate your fabric and get you wet. And that's what you don't want when you're out hiking, especially for a longer day. So, here are some examples. Mountain Hardwear has some really great rain gear, but there's other brands out there, of course. And when it comes to waterproofing, not only do you want to maybe look at your recommendations, but you want to look for something that it's called like a two-layer laminate, which means it's extra, it's going to really have that waterproofing you need. That's a little bit more technical, more expensive, of course, but I'm just wanting you all to know, because I've learned the hard way. I've had water resistant clothing where it actually wasn't what I needed. Okay. So really look into that. And then you can also add something like gaiters to keep rain out of your pants, and mud as well, because when you're out there, you might be encountering really muddy trails and all of that. So if you're not aware and familiar with gaiters, this is an example from Katula. And basically, you put it on top of your pant, and they usually have hooks you hook onto your shoe, and that just helps to keep out, not only mud and but it helps to keep debris out. Another note on the rain gear that I just wanted to add is that sometimes the waterproofing does fail, and there is a product out there called Knit Wax, and that allows you to re-waterproof your gear. It's really good to check on your waterproofing at least once every 3 months, and we have a whole video on this on our YouTube page. So if you're not familiar, we have tons of videos and resources like this one that we put up on our a YouTube page. So feel free to look that up so you can learn more on how to re-waterproof your gear, how to check for when it's time to re-waterproof, and also gain more information on the product that I just mentioned here. Okay, so footwear for springtime. I mean, of course, there's lots of options. As I mentioned, Oboz is our sponsor, so you're seeing their shoes here. They just came out with these new shoes here, the Catabatics, which are waterproof and have Gore-Tex. I didn't talk so much about Gore-Tex, but Gore-Tex is a really great, I think, product and company. They offer a lot of waterproof solutions that allow for you to basically stay dry while it allows your fabric to be breathable. And that way it's not, you're not retaining moisture within your clothing, within your shoes. So I know for the new Catabatics, Oboz partnered with Gore-Tex, and now you have this technology that really allows you to be efficient when you're out in the rain or when you're out in conditions that are going to be more wet. So here are some examples, just so you get an idea. Having a mid type shoe when it's muddy, I think is personally my favorite, because with like a lower, if I'm not wearing gaiters, then it's just easier for me to get like rocks and, get dirt and get my shoes get dirtier, my socks get dirtier, my pants get dirtier. So these are just some examples for you as you're thinking through that. But having waterproof shoes is always great when you're in that season of winter and spring. And then, of course, you're going to need a day pack for all of the gear we just talked about. Here are just some examples of like a 40-liter pack versus like a 22 flash, which is going to be for smaller hikes. If you're going out for a longer day, you might have more gear. You might want to opt for a 40-liter pack. Some other essentials as you're doing and planning your spring hiking is, a way to carry your water, of course. Personally, I'm a fan of reservoirs. I know not everyone likes them. You can opt for a water bottle or a couple water bottles to hold your fluids. And then, of course, thinking through like, how do I communicate in case of an emergency? If I lose my phone, I always recommend, people have their GPS unit, especially if you're going to be outside often. And then, something that maybe you haven't thought about is a rain, a cover for your pack in case it rains. So a rain cover for your pack, you can buy those. There's tons of brands that do them. And if sometimes your pack already comes with the rain cover, so check that out. Take a look and see, do I have a rain cover or not? It also helps for snow and other type of conditions like that. Another option too that is really nice, and I actually own this, is this Sita Summit. It's a dry bag. And this dry bag allows you to put your items inside of the bag, and then you can close it up and it's waterproof. So if it starts raining and you don't have a cover, you can have something like that, or even a trash bag. I usually keep like a gallon sized trash bag in my backpack as a backup in case something like that happens, or it could even be an emergency rain poncho if like you get stuck out there. So that's another good tip. Of course, hiking poles, trekking poles are really beneficial when it's, raining, or just when you're hiking. They help with your stability. For myself, I know they've helped me prevent falls, and especially when it's muddy and rainy. I just had, actually, when I was hiking in Patagonia, there was one day where the trails were really muddy, and if it hadn't been for my trekking poles, I absolutely would have had a pretty severe fall. Thankfully, they helped on the way down some really muddy sections of the trail. And then if you haven't thought about it, it is, mosquito season. And so having maybe some sort of system or product that you like to use for mosquito repellent. You could also actually spray your clothing, and it lasts for quite a bit of time. It's like, I believe it's like a number of washes, but that will last and keep the bugs away. So here are some ideas for some other essentials you may not have thought about. Of course, when you're hiking, and by the way, All Trails is not a sponsor of ours, but it's just a really easy, I believe, beginner friendly app when you're getting new to the outdoors and just kind of getting comfortable with getting outdoors. They have so many trails. And if you do upgrade, they offer you a way to download your maps so that when you're offline, you can navigate. So it's just really important to know how to use this tool or have some way of navigating. Of course, without learning how to navigate, it can make you feel like I'm not really sure where to go. Maybe you might have fears of getting lost. If you are new to hiking, I always recommend going to state parks that are, well marked and have maps available, but also having some backup form of being able to navigate yourself. So that's kind of just a little information on having some way of navigating so that you can have fun when you're out hiking. And of course, we have our maps. Of course, you can also buy these really wonderful maps like the Tom Harrison map, which I believe someone told me is only available in California. I'm not sure if someone can validate that, but there's tons of other uh, organizations that do maps for the locations you're going to be hiking in. And the great part about these maps is that they're going to have lots of trails on them. So you could potentially grab a map and it could have 30 plus different trails you could go on. And learning how to read a map, and you can take classes for this. So I highly recommend, always recommend trying to take a couple of map and compass classes because it does take a while to learn how to navigate. And it's just such a life-saving skill to have. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about rain. Here are just some tips for you to think about. It's always a great idea, not only for when it rains, but also just to have in your car an extra set of dry clothes, or when you've gone out for a long day of hiking, it might be nice to change after you're done with your hike, keeping baby wipes, keeping some sandals or some comfortable shoes so you can change into something comfortable for the drive home. Make sure you're always checking the weather. And if you see that there's severe weather coming to the trails, that's another thing. The All Trails now has an embedded, like it has embedded weather in there, and you can go in there and say when you're hiking, the time, and it'll give you the forecast. But there's a website that you can go to called mountainforecast.com. I love that website. It gives you so much information about what the temperatures are going to be up at the summit, for example, the wind, if there's rain in the forecast and all of that. And of course, if you're not familiar or haven't been out hiking for a long time and know what to do in case of severe weather, I mean, first off, we shouldn't even really be out when there's severe weather. But if you're not familiar with like thunder, lightning, it might be a good idea to opt to do your hike another day. Okay. And another thing in California, when I lived there, when it rained, the parks in Orange County would shut down for a few days. They didn't want people on the trails when it was raining. So make sure to research, are my trails open when it rains? So that's important. Sometimes trail conditions are also closed due to other problems. I know right now with California having all the fires, there were some closures coming up that I had read about. So be aware, know before you go. Okay. Obviously, it's really important to go online, do a little bit of research on what to do in case of thunder and lightning. I think that is a really important skill we all need to have. True story. I've just been freaked out before by thunder and lightning that I've been around. I knew what to do, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make me feel scared. And of course, turning around in case you need to. That's totally okay. The trail will always be there. And then also know that Leave No Trace recommends that if you are on a muddy trail, that you hike through the mud and puddles instead of widening or creating social trails. Those are all those little extra trails that might look like they're trails, but they're really not. So we're causing more erosion. We're causing extra trails where they don't need to be. So just kind of keep mindful of that. Okay, so I just wanted to run through because I had this information. Also, obviously, with spring comes poisonous plants. So, thankfully, we have had our a sponsor in the past, Technu, who helped us to put this presentation together. And I just wanted to touch on it in case you weren't aware. But yes, there is poison ivy. I'm sorry, poison ivy, oak, and sumac that you can see in these maps that grow around the US. Okay. Of course, I know there's some participants outside of the US. And you can probably look up some maps online, but here is a map of what we were sent. And as you could see, there's poison oak in California and all of the West Coast. And then we have Western poison ivy and a lot of like the, central of America, followed by Eastern poison ivy. As you can see, the green here, we can see that sumac grows more on the East Coast. So it's just good to familiarize yourself and know that there are poisonous plants that can cause some not so fun irritations of the skin. So, okay, so what is it that causes the irritation? Well, it's urushiol, which is a substance, it's an oil that these plants, these different leaves give off if your body rubs on it. And a lot of times I've heard from participants that it's like their dog that brought it home. And so they'll touch the dog and they don't even realize it. And then they've got, a rash. So the urushiol is found on leaves, vines, and roots. It spreads easily and can be potent for quite a bit of time. So we have some recommendations here for what to do when and if that happens. But in the meantime, here are some pictures of what these plants look like. So you can see poison ivy, what it looks like. A lot of times it has this red kind of golden look to it. And that's how I've normally been able to see it here. It is the color of three almond shaped leaves or leaflets, and they range from light to dark green, turn bright red in the fall. So keep an eye out for that. And also, by the way, this presentation will be shared. So if you are like wanting to go back to it, you can. I'll put it up in a few days. Okay, poison oak. Here we go. This is what it looks like. It can be, grow as a dense shrub. Again, three leaflets, scalloped edges. They resemble leaves of a true oak, can be bronze, bright green, yellow, green, reddish, depending on the season. Okay, poison sumac. Here's what it looks like. It's usually in wet or flooded soils, in swamps. And let's see, it can have compound leaves with 7 to 13 leaflets, and veins from which the leaflets grow are always red. So keep an eye out for these plants when you're out hiking. Another reason why trekking poles are kind of nice, you can kind of put those shrubs to the side. All right. So, yes, how do we avoid rashes? So, unfortunately, if you do come in contact with any of these plants, it's possible. Some people are not allergic, but some people are. So, within 10 to 20 minutes, try, it says that you're pretty much kind of at trouble at this point. So, maybe if you catch it right away, you can go wash yourself really quickly. I know that Technu has a product that you can, it's a wash that you can put on that will help. So Technu does have a lot of products that allow you to, give me one sec. We've got a few more people coming in. Technu has a bunch of products that help if you've come across this kind of situation. So I really like these detox wipes because they come in, they're single use. You just pop them in your bag, in your emergency kit. And then after a while, you might need to replace it. So just keep an eye out. But it's pretty much you just wipe your skin with it and it really helps. I actually had something happen to me when I was hiking in San Diego and I immediately felt the rash come on, and I used the detox wipes and it definitely helped. So I've actually had to test it out. So They have a ton of other products. Again, they're not currently a sponsor, but it is a great product to know about. It is something you might want to keep in your pack as you're hiking in the springtime, and these plants might start coming up and being, really big when you're on the trail. And especially, guys, right now with everything that's happening, with there being a lack of support within the national park system, um, it might be a situation where you're on a trail that's not going to be as maintained. So just be aware of what options you have. And of course, with spring come wildflowers and allergies. And I'm sorry to all of you who are going through it right now. So, of course, I don't want to say stay out and don't go hiking or go outside, because the benefits are so wonderful. But of course, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Bring your, Kleenex, take, your allergy pills, and also know maybe there are other places you can hike that, won't have the same pollen, issues as maybe certain areas that you might be going to. So if anyone has any tips, by the way, on allergies, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm not super familiar, but if you are and have any resources, please put them in the chat for the community. So now we're into our spring hiking tips. Okay, so we talked a little bit about treating your clothes and gear with permethrin. It's a Sawyer brand. It will help repel mosquitoes, ward off ticks, chiggers, and mites. So it's something you might be interested in. And then, of course, if you're going to be applying insect repellent, first apply your sunscreen, then apply the insect repellent. And then, of course, mosquitoes like coming out at dusk and dawn. So maybe try to go a little bit more midday or something like that. Okay. And then, of course, with our wildflowers, please don't trample them, stay on trail, please don't pick them. And of course, let's practice leave no trace, especially right now. I spoke to Leave No Trace today, guys, and they were just saying, please talk to your community about getting informed. Right now with all these cuts happening, we just need people to really show up and be stewards of the land and do what they can to leave it better than they found it. So we all have a part in it, and thank you all for being here, getting educated, and for giving your 2 cents as well. Okay, so that's my presentation for today. Just a quick note, we have tons of events happening all around the nation. If you go to our website and look up the tab events, there's lots going on there. We have amazing leaders who are on this call leading events. There's National Trails Day coming up. And then if you like hiking and you want to plant trees, you have to do nothing except hike, sign up for this Oboz Trail for Trees challenge. So every year they do this. You have a whole month in the month of April. You can sign up. You can also join our team. We have a 52 hike challenge team. So feel free to be a part of that, and let's plant as many trees as we can. For each hike that you log, you will get a tree planted on your behalf. And also, I did want to mention that um, they I mean, it's free to join. You do need to, that's what I was going to say. You need to connect some sort of tracker with your challenge. So I use Strava for that. I recently got an iWatch, so I'm able to upload my activities through my iWatch. So if you need help with that, let us know. I have some little guidelines on our website on how to use Strava. And of course, we appreciate your support. Please share the 52 Hike Challenge with your friends and family. They can start anytime. We have tons of other challenges. So we appreciate that. And then we have a retreat coming up. I don't know if any of you are on the fence or thinking about it, but we have 8 camp spots left, 1 RV spot left. And it's going to be an amazing time. And I'm securing some amazing giveaways and sponsors. So I really hope you join us. And that's it for right now. So I'm going to pop into the chat and see what you guys all came up with in terms of questions. And also, if anyone has anything to add, feel free to unmute yourself, comments, questions. I'm happy to help. All right. So I asked Julie if she hiked in her hiking shoes or barefoot when she went out hiking in the at the beach, and she said she wore boots for one of her hikes, and then she did barefoot. Went 5 miles barefoot. Nice. And then Terry, who's one of our leaders, is leading a National Trails Day hike. So you can find that on our website. Let's see. Okay, so someone's looking to do the PCT next year, wanted to possibly see if anyone has any idea how many pairs of oboes sawtooth 2 I'd need. I'm not heavy nor a heavy walker. Not a heavy, okay. Um, PCT, that's gonna take, is it, and don't quote me, you guys. I wouldn't be sure. Is it like a 6 month journey? Does anyone know? I did the John Muir Trail, and that took me 21 days. So, if anyone has information on that, now I would say just what I mean, you could probably, someone could probably pop in here and put more information, but you might need anywhere from 2 to 3 pairs possibly. And also, I know that you could have stuff shipped to you, like when you take breaks. We took a break once where we went out and we went into a hotel and I shipped stuff out, and also my hiking mate had to have a pair of shoes shipped out to her, so we picked them up. So um yeah, you would probably, that's my assumption, but let's see if anyone has any other information here. Okay, thanks, Chris. General rule is every 500 miles or so, you would need new shoes. Thank
And
you,
I think
Chris, for that information.
yeah, yeah, I think the PCT is what, 2,600 odd miles.
Yes.
So you're probably going to go through about 5 pairs. There are some new shoes coming out that are claiming to last longer, some trail runners, but I don't know the brand. So, but a lot of it's going to depend on the conditions, the terrain you're hiking on. You know, some terrain is going to tear up your shoes faster, and some stuff you're going to go much easier.
I
As the
can
man who
definitely,
tears up his shoes in the desert all the time.
I was going to say that when there's rocks and sand, they shred your shoes much quicker than when you're on some sort of like basic, trail with just dirt, I mean, that's my experience. And especially like Sierra hikes, where there's lots of rock, those will trash your shoes much quicker. And I'm sure, Chris, you can attest to that.
Yeah. And another thing is your feet are going to change. So that's a
Yes.
tip I've heard from people who've done through hikes is you may start off in a size 10, and the next thing you know, you're now a size 11 because your feet will. So, you know, have a good home-based partner who can, potentially get new shoe sizes for you along the way.
That's a wonderful tip and idea, Chris. And it is true that actually did happen to my hiking partner as well. Her foot size grew like half a size or full size after we did the John Muir Trail. And I do think it, you want to be comfortable when it comes to through hiking. Like the number one thing with your footwear, it's exhausting. You're on your feet all day. And also Luca tape, because that really helped with blisters. It just happens when you're on a through hike. So definitely carry that from day one. It's a lifesaver for me. Even with the Patagonia trek, for some reason, I was having blisters, and once I put that tape on, I was set for the rest of the hike. So be proactive. Make sure if you feel a hot spot, take care of it right away. Don't let it become a blister that could really affect the rest of your trip. So Terry says, out in the wild, there's an orange to yellow orange flower called jewelweed that is a natural antidote that often grows in the same vicinity as poison ivy. Pluck off a flower and rub it onto where you have been exposed. It keeps the itch manageable. Thanks. Thanks, Terry. I just got mud ponds to wear when I'm in a muddy situation. Okay, what are mud ponds, Sherry? Feel free to share because I'm not familiar with that.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just bought them from a company online and they are not, they're sort of like a microspike type thing that it comes on, they're rubber and they attach to your boots. I was talking to Terry on the leader page, and they would be great to be able to navigate mud. So they just have like little nubs on them that seem to grip on in the mud.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you sharing that tip with the group.
Yes.
All right, we have some tips for allergies and people who have allergies. So, shower pollen off as soon as possible, and it can also be helpful to flush your nose with saline spray often if you are stuffy due to allergies. Thank you so much, Shanna. I really appreciate your tips. I know that that is potentially something that might stop people from getting outside. And, we obviously want to offer as many tips so that you can keep hiking through all seasons.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you. Can you use all trails with the April hiking challenge? Oh, unfortunately not, Sherry. They don't, it's all trails has their proprietary system and they don't work with like I forgot what it's called right now, but basically like when developers are able to take the data off of another company's database. I'm drawing a blank right now. Someone knows the word I'm looking for. But
Okay.
yeah, there are, what was it?
I said, okay.
Yeah, they have a ton of options when you sign up. It does tell you what options you have for connecting and which apps work with it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so someone said, the PCT will take about 5 to 6 months. That's what I was thinking. All right. Sherry is leading a hike this Saturday in Pennsylvania if anyone wants to join. Thank you, Sherry. Awesome. Oh, and Sherry is familiar with jewel weed. Very cool. And API. Thanks, Chris. Yep, I knew I was like, I'm drawing a blank here. All right. So, unless anyone else has any other questions, we can jump off the meeting. Otherwise, feel free to pop in and share anything else that you might need assistance with. Okay, Chris said that it's a possibility to record a track and export it and then import it to into Strava.
Okay.
All right. Looks like we're complete for our meeting today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's always a pleasure. I love hearing from you. I love hearing your tips. And I love this community. So we'll see you guys in 3 months. I'll send an update on the next meeting. Cheers.
Bye.